intimidating experience, going into the court, dealing with the judge with his, and the winks of the gowns and all the rest of it. The whole experience is designed to make you feel isolated. It makes an enormous difference to be able to walk into the court knowing that there are many, many people outside there to support you. So I really encourage people to come along, bring your union banners and so on. So we talked about how there is a long history of repression of resistance. Next up I want to invite Norman Strike to speak. Norman was part of the miners' strike 1984-85 that actually came incredibly close to putting down Thatcher's government, and the massive mobilisation of the police was part of their attempt to use any means necessary to ensure that didn't happen. And the Battle of Orgreave in particular was one of those set-piece battles set up by the police to brutalise the miners and to criminalise them. So I want to hand over to Norman to tell more about his story.
Bit of background, the miners' strike started because Thatcher's government, she especially appointed a hitman from America called Ian McGregor, who was brought in to close as many pits as he could. And the first thing he did was we're closing 5 pits from Monday, no argument. We, as a group of miners, said, no you're not, we're going on strike. And the majority of miners in the British Isles did go on strike. My pits up in the northeast of England, West Oak Colliery, was a 1 million tonne a year producing pit. We worked in seams 7 miles out into the North Sea, and we voted unanimously to go out on strike. We started strike Monday the 12th of March 1984. And right from the start, the police were involved. You know, we started to picket out local pits. The police came along with truncheons, with shields, and started lashing out at people. And at the time, you know, we were miners. We weren't, you couldn't really call us a political force as such at the beginning. We were just miners who were trying to defend our jobs. And we were shocked. I was shocked by the level of violence that they started to use against us. And then, a month into the strike, there was a miner killed in Nottingham, and he could have been killed by the police. It's never been proven that he was. The police said he was hit by a stone thrown by a picket. The picket said he was hit by a policeman, but he died. He was 22, David Jones died. And the whole of Nottingham, because they decided they were not going to join the strike, the whole of the county of Nottingham was surrounded, literally, by police. You couldn't get into Nottingham. Building workers trying to go about their work were stopped and not allowed to go into the county because they said they were going to picket. It was real police power, real police force against us. In May, we had a big rally in Nottingham and in Mansfield. And there was 11,000 miners there to hear Tony Benn, Arthur Scargill, of course, speaking, trying to drum up support for the strike, trying to urge the Nottinghamshire miners to join us in our struggle. And that was my first sight, this is 2 months before Orgreave, that was my first sight of the power of the state. And I kept a diary at the time. I'd just like to read it, what happened. We just had lunch. Suddenly we jumped at the sound of breaking glass and saw a mob of policemen in full riot gear appear from behind the community centre and set about 2 lads, kicking and punching them. We all started shouting and running towards the lads to help them, when all of a sudden, police on huge horses started coming out of the community centre and broke into a gallop, clubbing people as they came. I was momentarily frozen, but the sight of a man falling to the ground with blood pouring from his head shook me to life, and I started to run towards the church doorway across the road. I remember thinking that they couldn't touch me there. People were screaming and shouting and running in all directions to avoid the horses. I watched in shock from the church doorway as a woman with a pushchair was knocked to the ground and her child fell over, screaming loudly. Not one of the priests running in the wake of the horses stopped to help her or the child. They were too intent on clubbing anyone they could get their hands on. They were dressed all in black with crash helmets, plastic shields and truncheons. And after they passed, I ran out and helped her and the child to the doorway. Then ran out again to help a man covered in blood get to safety. The police were just going berserk, out of control. that was 2 months into the strike. That was my first sight of, like, real, I was shocked. As we were having the rally, they had police inside the community centre on horseback, just waiting for it all to end, and then they attacked us. We hadn't provoked them. We weren't throwing things at them, like they tried to say at Orgreave. I was also at Orgreave on that day, and it was like seen from a science fiction film. The field was just full with police in full riot gear, and behind them there was police on horses. And to the side of them, there were policemen with dogs snarling and barking and on leashes. And, you know, it was a kind of tradition. We charged into the police, they resisted us, we retreated, we charged into the police. But this time we charged into the police, we retreated, the lines opened, the horses came out, and everybody ran. And I'm telling you, when you've got a policeman coming towards you at a gallop on a huge horse with a baton, you'd like to think you'd stand there and protect yourself, but you don't. You run. And I run up that field, and I tell you what, Usain Bolt couldn't have caught me. I went up that field so fast, I dove over a wall at the top, I went down an embankment, and I was just stunned. I couldn't believe it. I'm a miner. I'm just fighting for my job. I'm trying to stop the coal lorries from going up. That's all I'm trying to do. And they're trying to hit me with truncheons. And you've seen pictures, I'm sure you have, of the famous one of the policeman on the horse trying to hit the woman with the camera. I saw men getting truncheoned to the ground with blood pouring out their head. And after that, on that same day, when we retreated, we went to get lunch in the supermarket. And the police came again, and the horses came out. And they were actually trying to get the horses into the supermarket. There was people running in all directions. I was hiding behind a car with 3 Welsh miners, but one woman was nearly having a heart attack, literally. And this policeman had his horse, and he was getting his bum, and he was whacking it against the car, trying to crush us against the wall. And the people in the houses were brilliant. They started putting stones on the walls for to throw at the police. And we used them to try and... The sad thing about Orgreave was we didn't go back the next day and do it again. That was the sad thing about Orgreave. We didn't go back, and that was because the union leadership called us off and we didn't go back. But the violence continued. I went to Bilston Glen in July. I was pulled over a fence by my ears, landed on my head. I had blood pouring out of my head. They threw me in the back of a van. They gave me a good kicking. I was covered in bruises. They charged me with violence against the police. I don't know how I was being violent. I think my head must have been hit in the truncheon or something. I was charged. They made that case last. I went for that case in Scotland a week after the strike finished in March. And the 2 policemen who were given evidence gave contradictory stories, and the magistrate said, I refuse to believe that the police could possibly be lying, therefore you're guilty as charged. That's the kind of justice. I was put in prison for 4 days. When I went in front of the magistrate, he said, you're a danger to the public, you are. I believe if I give you bail conditions, you refuse to accept them, I'm sending you to Durham jail, take them down 14 days. So, that was the level of violence that was used against us. I'd like you to go to, if you use Facebook, Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign. They're trying to get one of these online petitions that you send to the government. If they get 100,000 people, they've got to debate it in Parliament. I'd like people to go to that and sign that petition if they can, please. And also, we're making a film, Still the Enemy Within. I'm proud to be the enemy within me. Still the enemy within, so we can capture the voices of those people who took part. Not just miners, students, teachers, everybody who supported us from all over the country, so that it can be a permanent record for young people especially to say that you can fight. You don't have to take what's going on, you can fight back. And that's what I would urge, and that's what we need now with this bloody government of the most evil. I thought Thatcher was the devil, but this lot, they're even worse than Thatcher was. Seriously, there's a man Toby Young, a Tory MP, said disabled people shouldn't be allowed, their kids shouldn't be allowed to go to school. And putting ramps into school for disabled kids in wheelchairs is political correctness gone mad. Christ's sake, what kind of country are we living in? And we need to fight back against them, and I hope that's what you're all here to do.